Hello all. This video lecture is on another very important theorem in electrostatics called as Gauss's theorem. Gauss's theorem is an important theorem that helps us analyze a few basic properties of electric field. You will see that by applying this theorem, some basic analysis of electric field can be made very simple. Let us start. Before going into the general proposition of Gauss's theorem, let us have a discussion on a few basic things that Gauss's theorem deals with. This theorem enables us to find out electric flux associated with a surface in certain situations without evaluating the surface integral of electric field. This means it is just an alternative method using which we can find out electric flux associated with the surface without going into the complex determination of surface integral of electric field. However, the use of Gauss's theorem is limited only to surfaces which are closed in nature. So Gauss's theorem applies only for closed surfaces. An important point I would like to make here is that closed imaginary surfaces taken in the region of electric field to apply Gauss's theorem are called Gaussian surfaces. So that is the term that we shall be using for such closed surfaces here onwards. Let us first of all state Gauss's theorem. Gauss's theorem states that total electric flux streaming through a closed surface is equal to 1 by epsilon 0 times the total charge enclosed by the surface. Roughly, Gauss's theorem can also be stated as the total number of electric field lines cutting through a surface, a closed surface, is equal to 1 by epsilon 0 times the total charge enclosed by the surface. We know that the total electric flux streaming through a closed surface can be represented by an integral shown in the left hand side of the given equation. So, according to Gauss's theorem, this integral must be equal to 1 by epsilon 0 multiplied by total charge within surface S. Here, symbol Q represents the total charge enclosed by the surface. Although the given distribution may consist of some charges which lie outside the surface, those charges are not to be included in determining the value of Q. So Q is the total charge enclosed within the surface. Here in this figure we have taken a spherical Gaussian surface containing a point charge Q at its center. However, there may be any number of charges inside the surface and they may be located anywhere inside the surface. The only thing one must make sure is that the Gaussian surface should not pass through any charge when the distribution is a discrete distribution. However, the distribution may be a continuous distribution. In that case, the Gaussian surface may pass through the distribution. From the definition or the statement of Gauss's theorem, let us see if we can make out some important points with regard to Gauss's theorem. We have seen that in its original form, Gauss's theorem is true for any closed surface, no matter whatever its shape or size. Gauss's theorem helps us determine the value of electric flux associated with a closed surface, and this flux is independent of shape or size of the Gaussian surface as long as the total charge enclosed by the surface remains the same. Thus, the total flux associated with a closed surface is independent of the choice of shape or size of the Gaussian surface. As we have already discussed, the term Q on the right hand side of Gauss's law includes the sum of all the charges enclosed by the surface. one must make sure that in order to evaluate the surface integral on the left hand side of Gauss's theorem, the electric field E is the total electric field due to all the charges, whether present inside or outside the Gaussian surface. However, charge Q on the RHS is simply the sum of all the charges present inside the surface S or the Gaussian surface. So this is another important point with regard to Gauss's theorem has already been discussed. One must make sure that if the distribution is a discrete distribution, one must make sure that the Gaussian surface does not pass through any charge. However, if it is a case of continuous charge distribution, the Gaussian surface can pass through the distribution. These are also another set of important points that one can keep in mind while working out questions based on Gauss's law. Gauss's law is often useful towards a much easier calculation of electrostatic field when the system has some symmetry. We will see that Gauss's theorem is applicable and can be used for finding out electric field in certain situations that involve symmetrical charge distributions. This is facilitated by the choice of a suitable Gaussian surface. We will see in our later slides the conditions on the basis of which the Gaussian surface should be selected. Finally, Gauss's law is based on the inverse square dependence on distance contained in the Coulomb's law. That means that Gauss's theorem is in complete compliance with Coulomb's law. Any violation of Gauss's law will indicate departure from the inverse square law. Let us come to the application part of Gauss's theorem. Gauss's theorem has some very useful and important applications. The first one of which is to find out electric flux associated with a closed surface if the charge enclosed is given. Gauss's theorem can be directly used to find out such electric flux. In certain situations involving symmetry, we can use Gauss's theorem even to find out electric flux associated with open surfaces. In order to facilitate the understanding of this point, we will take certain examples into consideration in the coming lessons. The next application and the most important one is to find electric field due to symmetrical charge distributions. Now, in order to use Gauss's theorem to find electric field due to symmetrical charge distributions, we must consider a Gaussian surface in the region of electric field, and this Gaussian surface should fulfill a few basic conditions. The first one of which is that the Gaussian surface should pass to the point where the electric field is to be determined. Moreover, the choice of Gaussian surface should be such that at each and every point on the Gaussian surface, the magnitude of electric field should be constant. The direction of electric field on any element of the Gaussian surface should coincide with the direction of area vector associated with that element. If all these conditions are fulfilled, Gauss's theorem can be successfully used to find out electric field at any given point close to a symmetrical charge distribution. Let us consider example. The first example of application of Gauss's theorem for finding out electric field due to symmetrical charge distribution is to find electric field due to a uniformly charged, infinitely large, thin plane sheet of charge. The surface charge density of the sheet is assumed to be sigma. Conceptually, this thin sheet refers to a sheet consisting of a single layer of charge. That means the same charge at any point on this sheet is responsible for furnishing electric field on both sides of the sheet. You can see in figure A the Gaussian surface that has been selected to facilitate evaluation of electric field is a cylindrical Gaussian surface, the length of which is perpendicular to the Gaussian surface. The circular caps of the Gaussian surface are parallel to the sheet, and each circular cap lies at equal distances from the sheet. You can see that the Gaussian surface is cutting through the sheet and extends equally on both sides of the sheet. Figure B represents the nature of electric field lines associated with the Gaussian surface, associated with the sheet of charge. You can see that electric field lines point normally outwards at each and every point of the sheet. From symmetry, we can also conclude that electric field in the surrounding region is uniform. So there are a few basic conclusions that can be drawn on the basis of symmetry in this case. Electric field E is equal and uniform on each circular cap. So electric flux through each circular cap is E multiplied by A, where A is the area of the circular cap. That means the total electric flux associated with both the circular caps should be equal to double of this value, that is 2 multiplied by E multiplied by A. Now since electric field points normally outwards from each point on the sheet, so electric field must be tangential over the curved surface. That means no electric field lines are cutting through the curved surface of the Gaussian surface. As such, the electric flux associated with the curved surface should be 0. So the total electric flux associated with the Gaussian surface is equal to the electric flux associated with the two circular caps only, that is 2 multiplied by E multiplied by A. Using Gauss's theorem, we get total flux is equal to 1 by epsilon 0 multiplied by total charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface. We can see that the total charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface is equal to the charge lying over the circular surface of the sheet having area A. Thus, total charge must be equal to surface charge density sigma multiplied by area capital A. This means 2EA is equal to 1 by epsilon 0 multiplied by sigma A. So this gives electric field E at any nearby point must be equal to sigma divided by 2 epsilon 0. The next example is on finding out electric field due to a uniformly charged, infinitely long straight wire. The linear charge density of the wire can be assumed as lambda. The first figure, figure A, shows how at any given point P, the electric field should point radially outwards. Two elements P1 and P2 have been taken that lie symmetrically with respect to any point O. We can see that because the elements are symmetrical, so the net electric field due to these two elements should be along the direction pointing radially outwards with respect to the line of charge. From symmetry, we can also conclude that at any point P equidistant from the charge wire, the electric field should be uniform. So, on the basis of all these discussion, we can select a cylindrical Gaussian surface as the Gaussian surface. The point P where electric field is to be determined, assumed to be located at a distance r from the wire, lies on the curved surface of the Gaussian surface. Thus, the radius of the Gaussian surface is r. Let us assume that the length of the cylindrical Gaussian surface is L and the charged wire lies along the axis of the cylindrical Gaussian surface. Now let us proceed with finding out electric field by applying Gauss's theorem. Because electric field is radially outward at each and every point, so we can see that total electric flux associated with each of the circular cap is zero. The reason is that electric field lies tangentially over the circular caps. On any small element of the curved surface, we can see that the direction of area vector and electric field coincides. Thus, flux through the Gaussian surface is equal to flux through the curved cylindrical part of the surface, which is equal to E multiplied by 2 pi RL, which is the curved surface area of the cylindrical Gaussian surface. Since the length of the wire enclosed by the Gaussian surface is L, so the charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface is lambda L. In accordance with Gauss's theorem, total flux should be equal to 1 by epsilon 0 times total charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface. Thus, E multiplied by 2 pi RL is equal to lambda L by epsilon 0. That implies electric field E is equal to lambda by 2 pi epsilon 0 R. We can clearly see that electric field is independent of the choice of length of the Gaussian surface. Vectorially, electric field at any point is given by E vector equal to lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught R multiplied by n cap, where n cap is the radial unit vector in the plane normal to the wire passing through the point. E vector is directed outwards if lambda is positive and inwards if lambda is negative. So I hope with the help of these two examples it will be possible for you to apply Gauss's theorem in more such conditions to find out electric field due to symmetrical charge distributions. Thank you.